Hello, welcome. I'm Carla Whitaker. I'm here from CalSOAP. We are the California Student Opportunity and Access Program. Everything we do is to try to help families and students and support them in their journey going to college, make sure they're aware of their college options, that they're aware of how to do things like fill out a financial aid form or a scholarship application or a college application. And we start working with students and families as young as possibly some of you are all here that could be in middle school and want to find out about what to expect from high school and what to expect after high school. So I don't have an assistant today to help me with the Q&A. So I've opened up the chat so that if you do have questions, you can put them into the chat. Keep in mind though, I will not be able to actually see them while I'm presenting the slideshow. When I close the slides, then I can see the chat and then I'll be happy to answer any questions in there. But while I'm sharing my slide deck, I won't be able to actually look at the questions live. But if you have them, just go ahead and put them in there, and that way I'll go back to them when I'm done sharing this slideshow. Also, this webinar is going to be posted tomorrow on the CalSOAP website. And I also can share on the CalSOAP website a PDF link to the slide deck. So the slides I'm sharing will be available to you. I know that's usually the most common question is, where can I get a copy of these slides? And I'm happy to share those with you again, starting tomorrow on the CalSOAP website. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Before I do, I just want to ask if anyone has any questions they specifically came here to get answered. You can put that in the chat right now. I just want to make sure to cover what you would like covered. So if you are like, I really don't understand the FAFSA, or I don't understand the college options, or I'm not sure how to pay for college, or tell me about the admissions process. If there's anything you want to know more about, now's a great time to put it in the chat. Okay, not seeing anything. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I will share my slide deck. So again, apologies that I can't read things while I'm sharing screen, but when I stop, I will go back and hopefully we'll have time for Q&A if you would like that. Okay, let me go ahead and get started. All right, so this is us. This is our logo that you might see on something like a flyer or online. We also have a social media presence. So whether you are on X, formerly Twitter, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, we have CalSOAP San Diego presence on all of those. And that's where we try to keep people current with things like, this is a webinar coming up, this is a workshop coming up, this is a summer program students can apply for, or here's a scholarship that's due this month. So we try to get a lot of current information out via our social media. I also put out I email a monthly newsletter. If you're interested, you can email me and ask to sign up for that. And I'm happy to share that with you. So if there are any students on the line or in the room right now, I often ask students, what words do you think of when you hear college? Because a lot of different things come to mind. Some people think opportunity, school, degree, final, dorms, debt, money, clubs, like there's all kinds of things that come to mind. Of course, they're all right, okay? But a basic definition of college for me, it's a school that you can attend to prepare you for your future, like for jobs and careers. And one of the differences is instead of kind of the all-you-can-eat buffet that is middle school and high school, where a lot of things are being put on your plate, you get to choose. You can choose your classes and you can choose your major. If students aren't familiar with the word major, I tell them that's the subject that they would be taking the most classes in college while working on their undergraduate degree. So sometimes a student will say, well, I love animals. Can I major in animals? Or I love books. Can I major in books? And I'll say, well, it depends on the subject. Like if you love music, yes, you can major in music, but you wouldn't major in books. You'd major in something like literature or English or writing. Okay. So these are some common majors that most universities and most colleges offer. You could be an engineering major. That could be your main focus of study, or business, or biology, or psychology, or history, or computer science, political science, visual arts, performing arts, education, like if you wanted to become a teacher. So that's just a sample of a few of dozens, if not hundreds of majors available. So parents and students, I do encourage you to get together and have talks with one another on a regular basis, because also sometimes your mind changes, sometimes plans change, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, so you find out about a new career or subject that you didn't know about before. So a good question for parents to ask students is, what's your favorite subject? What do you love? Also, you could ask them, what problem in the world do you want to solve? Sometimes they don't necessarily know, well, I want to be a marketing manager, or I want to be a software engineer. They're not even sure what those things are yet, but they do have an idea of what's going on in the world, and if maybe there's a problem that they are interested in solving, or a cause that they're passionate about. You could ask them, do you have a dream job? Like, what, if you did, what would your dream job be? Have you thought about what college you want to attend? Like, do you want someplace close or far, or what? What training or degrees do you need for the career you want? So a lot of times when I ask people, how long does college take? Students will say 4 years, okay? And is that true? Well, yes and no, because it depends on what kind of career you want to go into, yes? So there are some careers where you only need a certificate or some hands-on training, some careers where you need an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, or you might need a master's or an advanced degree, a professional or a doctorate degree. It all depends on what they want to do. So there's no such thing as college always takes 4 years. Sometimes it takes less, sometimes it takes a lot more. And also students have the flexibility to go part-time or full-time, or to go into the workforce or the military and come back to college later in life. I tell them there's no maximum age, there's no, age limit on when you can go to college. So as much as I encourage them to, go while they're young and fresh and have energy right out of high school, I want to let them know that college can be for any age. All right, so one reason to go to college, I tell students this is not the only reason, but one reason to go to college is that the more training and education you have, the more opportunities you have for employment. And with those bigger opportunities for employment comes the opportunity a lot of times for more money. And so if you are spending more time getting more training and getting more education, you often have job options, and often they're higher paid options. So I'm showing right here, we see the median, or average, not average, but median middle weekly earnings, how much you would earn in a week depending on your college attainment or education attainment, and what that would be like over the course of a year. And then I'll show you on the next slide what it would be like over the course of your life. So if someone did not graduate from high school, they're likely to make about $680 a week, which is about $35,000 a year. And in a city like San Diego, where the cost of living is very high, it's difficult to make ends meet on a salary that low. People do it, but it's pretty difficult. You can see that just graduating from high school already bumps you up from that, just having your high school diploma. If you have a little college and associates, you can see every time you get a higher degree or more training, more education, your potential earnings on average, the people who have these degrees or this level of education, on average, they will tend to make more and more the more education they have. I also tell students it's not magic. If I have my doctorate degree, right, and if I have my MD and I'm a medical doctor, but I don't practice medicine and I don't work, I'm gonna make $0 a year. So this is also dependent on, your ability and willingness to be able to work in that career field that you studied. So this is the average by week. You see the average by year. And here you can see over the course of a lifetime that the average that you would make if you did not graduate high school is probably a little bit less than $1 million. Which is great, you're a millionaire, but when you spread that out over 40 or 50 years of work, it's not probably as much as you would like to live a comfortable lifestyle. You really would struggle with that. But you can see with a high school degree, it gets higher. With some college, it gets higher. With a bachelor's, it jumps again, a master's, a doctorate, etc. So that is something that is nice for students to see. Now, sometimes they see somebody like a TikTok influencer who didn't go to high school and who has sponsorships and makes a lot of money, or an incredibly talented athlete who didn't need like a college education to make a great deal of money. And yes, this is true. If you have something like either an amazing, special, unique talent or amazing luck, then those things can happen for you. But for a lot of people, you have to have maybe those things, but also opportunity, training, education, hard work, all those other things that go along with it as well. Also, I like to tell students, hey, college can be fun. Yes, it is work. Yes, it is school, but it's a place that you will learn, not just about academics, but about yourself, and you'll grow as a person. It's a place where sports will be available either to play sports recreationally, competitively, or if you're into watching sports, you're going to have games and matches and tournaments that you can attend at a variety of college levels, community college, universities, privates and publics. A lot of times they'll give you an opportunity to study abroad for a semester where you can travel to another country, still be taking a college class, learning another language, traveling, and still going to college at the same time and having financial aid pay for it. You can make friendships and connections in college. In college, they have tons of clubs, leadership, and community service opportunities, and you can start your own club in college if the one you want doesn't exist. We like to tell the story at UC San Diego of there are so many student clubs. Someone started a lettuce eating club, and guess what they do? Yes, they eat lettuce. It's true. And, you can start a club to do whatever you want. There are jobs and internships in college available. It's a place to find mentors. And it's also a place that has a lot of resources. There's going to be a student health center if you're sick or injured, where student health can help you. There's going to be a career services center where they can help you with something like creating a resume, learning how to apply for a job, practicing interview skills. There are various clubs that are like by orientation or affiliation. So there might be like a Black Student Union, an Asian or Pacific Islander club, a MECHA club, an LGBTQ club. Also, college students can benefit from discounts to things like movies, restaurants, shows, concerts. You get discounts, college student discounts on things like Apple and Amazon, things like that. So you'll find that college is expensive, but also has its perks. One thing that I like students to think about in terms of, okay, as they start to think about what they're interested in doing in life, I use the Japanese words iki and gai. So ikigai would mean your life's purpose. Iki is life and gai is worth. So I ask students, yes, you'll probably have to make a living somehow, right? But hopefully it's not just making a living. Hopefully it's something you don't dread doing. Hopefully it's something that you can both, have a job and be independent and be comfortable, but also I'm hoping that it's something that you don't hate. I'm hoping that maybe it's even something that you love or are really good at or are really passionate about. Okay. So a good way to start thinking about this is, what do I love? What am I good at? But I can't just stop there. There's a lot of things I love and I'm good at that I'm probably not going to make a living doing. Also, what does the world need? What problem does the world need solved? And also, what can I be paid for? Right? There's a lot of things that you could do and be passionate about, but you have to also make a living doing it. So ikigai is where your passion, your mission, your vocation and profession, it all merges. So it has to be kind of a mixture of all these things. What do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? What can you be paid for? Sometimes students say, well, I know what I love. I love music. I love math. I love theater. But what does that mean as a job, right? Or I love reading, but can I have a job as a reader? Like, what does that mean? So a really good place for them to explore. ONET Online is one. ONETonline.org is the website, and that's a place where they can explore different kinds of careers. And also a really user-friendly one for young students is CA Career Zone for California Career Zone. It has great, interesting budgeting tools. It has little quizzes and assessments that they can take, like interest profilers, to find out if I like this or if I'm good at this, what would that equal as a possible job or career? And these are actually fun to take. They're free. Some of them are very easy. It's not like you have to write an essay. It's things like they ask you a question and you can answer with an emoji, right? So it's really fun and user-friendly for students. So I definitely recommend California Career Zone for younger students and sometimes ONET Online for older students. As you think about what you want to do in life, students, there's kind of two main things you want to look at as you're researching. So whatever that job or career is, how much education does it take? And what is the average salary for that job? That's the first two things you probably want to look at. As you get more into specific things, you can ask like, okay, well, what is a day in the life like? Or what is the longevity of this career? Or can I do this career or this job in any city or town or place in the country or the world? But the two main things you just want to start with are what's the education I need and how much money can I make? So maybe you're interested in engineering, in teaching at the college level, teaching at the K-12 level, money and accounting, having a business, being a nurse, a counselor, a social worker, a therapist, a physical or occupational therapist, maybe a physician, a surgeon, a doctor, maybe a lawyer. Okay, so that's kind of up to students to figure out, okay, well, what does this career make? How much money and how much education would I need? If you're looking to stay in San Diego, and parents, this is especially good for you, San Diego Workforce Partnership, and they're at the website workforce.org. They have a lot of good information about industry sectors here in San Diego, like what there are a lot of jobs in here. For example, there's a lot of jobs in military here. There's a lot of jobs in biotechnology and sciences here. There's a lot of jobs in education and public administration here. So that will vary, of course. There's some cities where there's a big emphasis on manufacturing, some where there's a big emphasis on arts or transportation. But if you're interested in San Diego specifically, workforce.org is a great place for resources where you can find out what kind of jobs, how much education, what's the average salary in San Diego. Okay, so now I kind of want to get into the lingo, right? As soon as you get deep into a topic, they all start having their acronyms and everything is GPA, AP, A through G, SAT. So I want to just break down what these terms mean because they're relative to college and I want to make sure you understand them. So GPA, the grade point average, is usually on a 0 to 4.0 scale. However, you'll notice that some students will hear this student had a 4.3 GPA. Well, if it's on a 0 to 4-point scale, how did they get a 4.3, for example? That means that they're using a weighted GPA system, and it means they're probably also taking an approved honors or advanced placement course. And that course, the grade in that course, if they get an A, B, or C in that AP course, it gives students an extra +1 point in their high school GPA. So for example, normally a 4.0 means all A's because an A is worth 4 points, right? A B is worth 3, a C is worth 2, etc. But if you get an A in an AP class, it's worth 5 points. And a B in an AP class is 4, right? And a C in an AP class is 3. You don't get an extra point for a D or an F, unfortunately, but that's one thing, that's one way to boost your GPA. And a lot of colleges look at weighted GPAs. So I just want to make sure people understand that that's how students can get above a 4.0. And if you're looking to apply to a very competitive, selective university right after high school and start there as a freshman, that strong GPA is an important factor in admissions. All right. So there's kind of two things about an AP class if a student decides to take an advanced placement class. This is optional, okay? It's an optional class. You don't have to take any AP classes, but that can help get you into, it can help get your GPA higher. It can also help you get a class that has real college level rigor and get you ready for what college is going to be like. But I encourage students to only take AP classes in the subjects they really like, are really passionate about, or are really strong in, okay? I don't necessarily recommend stacking your schedule with every class being an AP class. That is a lot of time and a lot of homework. I tell people really focus on the subjects that you're strong in, interested in, or good at. The other thing is that besides just your class and that grade in a class, there's also an AP exam that's given in May. It's only given once a year for each subject, so literally only one day a year. And let's say it's your junior year of high school and you're taking AP US history. If you take that APUSH exam in May and you've been working toward it, studying for it all year in APUSH class, if you get a score, it's on a 5-point scale. And if you get a 3, 4, or 5, most colleges will then award you college credits or units. So in other words, instead of starting college with 0 units, you might be starting with 3 units because of, or 4 units or 6 units or 12 units because of either an AP exam that you passed, or you can also get the same thing from taking a community college class where you're getting dual credit, like both high school and college credit. So that's nice that the AP exams are also recognized. Your score on that can give you college credit at many colleges and universities. So that's something to know about AP. A through G I'll get into in a minute. It's just the pattern of courses that you need to graduate from high school and get ready for college. And then SAT I do want to bring up. So if any of us are parents and are a little bit older, we remember that the SAT used to be required almost every university. It's not anymore. When the pandemic came, a lot of students couldn't test for a couple of years. And during that time, universities had no choice. They had to go, without a test score to admit students. They had to just base it on GPA or other factors. Well, some universities are now deciding to go back to requiring or recommending an SAT exam, and others are not. Others are remaining test optional or test blind. And so I will tell you, in the state of California, all of the public college systems in California are now test blind for admissions, meaning at the community colleges, at all the UCs, and at all the CSUs currently, they not only will they not use your test score for admissions, they won't even look at it for admissions purposes. So that SAT, if you decide to take it, will not have any bearing at a UC, a CSU, or a community college on whether or not you get in. Now, if you take it, and if you happen to get into that university based on your grades and other things, if you want to then use that SAT score, like maybe for placement purposes, they might use it to place you in a certain course. Or maybe there's a certain scholarship you're applying for, like an athletic NCAA scholarship that would like to see a certain SAT score. In that case, it could be used for those purposes. As far as the private universities in California, there are none that currently require an SAT, but there are some that will consider it. So if you take it and you like your score, it's on a 1600 scale, so 1600 is a perfect score, then you could submit it. So say that you might want to, it's optional, but considered, say, like it's something like at Stanford. Okay, they don't require it, but they will consider it if you do submit it. Which GPA do colleges use? Usually the GPA that they're using, they give each student, they have to kind of assign you a number, a GPA, so that they can compare all the students in the application pool, and they want to give you all the exact same calculation. So what they do is they base it on the grades earned in classes taken in grade 10 and grade 11. Okay, and they do use a weighted GPA, most of them. All CSUs and all UCs do this. They look at your 10th and 11th grade classes for a GPA calculation. The one class that they will not include is something like PE. All right. However, I will say band usually counts because band is a fine art credit, and it's usually you're getting a fine art and a PE, like a dual credit. But other than that, PE does not count. They're looking at your A through G courses only for that GPA calculation, and D's or F's in any year, even freshman or senior year, can disqualify you from a lot of universities, not a community college, but from most universities like a UC, a CSU, or most privates. Okay, so I told you we would get to A through G. This is A through G. The subjects that you need to take in, before you graduate from high school in order to be considered for university admission. 2 years of history is required. 4 years of English, that's 4 full years of English. 3 to 4 years of math. 2 to 3 years of science. 2 to 3 years of a language other than English. 1 year of visual or performing arts. 1 year of an elective chosen from any of the subjects above. All right. Now, when I say something like, well, 3 years of math is required, but 4 is recommended, what does that mean? It means the bare minimum is 3. But if you're applying to a college, a university that is very competitive, very selective, they don't have a high admit rate, it's difficult to get in, there's more applicants than there are spots, then you really want to go for that next level. You want to take not just the bare minimum that is required, but you want to take what's actually recommended. So say, for example, you're interested in applying to San Diego State University or UC San Diego. Those are pretty competitive universities, even though they're public. So for those, I would recommend not just taking the 3 years of math, but taking 4. Okay, that's my recommendation. The same with like the science. It's better to take 3 years than 2, or language other than English. And by the way, the language other than English can be American Sign Language, but all the years have to be in the same language. So if you take Spanish 1, 2, you then have to take Spanish 3, 4. You can't take then like Spanish 1, 2, and then French 1, 2. Okay. All right. So colleges are looking at 2 different things. When they look at the GPA, it's just based on the 10th and 11th grade grades that you got. When they look at A through G, they're looking at everything in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. In 12th grade, they can only look at what you're currently enrolled in for 12th grade year and what's planned for spring semester, because you're applying in the fall of 12th grade. But they do look back even as far as middle school. They look back as far as middle school for 2 subjects, math and language other than English. So some people, if you're doing like Algebra 1 or Integrated 1 in middle school, that will actually count towards your A through G requirements. That's why some people can get through with their 4 years of math and finish like their junior year of high school with math, because they've started, like if they do Integrated 1 in 8th grade and then Integrated 2 in 9th grade, Integrated 3, and then they go on to pre-calc and calc or AP stats or something like that. So it is possible to finish early because they go all the way back to, or if you're taking like Spanish 1, 2 in middle school, that will count. So they do look as back as far as middle school for language other than English, and for math. All the other things like science, history, English, performing arts, that all starts in 9th grade that they're looking at those. All right. So sometimes students don't know, like, well, how much education do I need to do a certain job? So I like to show them with a chart like this. It shows them, say that you wanted to be an automotive technician, you wanted to work with cars. Say that you wanted to be an administrative assistant and work in an office. For that type of job, usually within 1 to 2 years at a vocational school or a community college, you could get the certification and the hands-on training that you need to be able to do that type of career and to start there. What if you wanted to do something like you wanted to be a dental hygienist, work in a dentist's office, a paralegal, that's someone who's not a lawyer, but they work with lawyers and attorneys, or get into accounting. For most of those jobs, it's going to take a minimum of about 2 years full time. And that 2 years could be done, for example, at a community or junior college, to get an associate's degree in something like that. What if you wanted to be an engineer? What if you wanted to be a manager? What if you wanted to get into marketing? A lot of jobs, like a really good number, require a 4-year or a bachelor's degree. Now, I say 4 years, but it's not really based on time. It's based on how many credits or units you take each quarter or semester. Some people go part-time. Some people go full-time. Some people go extra super duper full-time and they take classes during the whole summer and they want to, get things out of the way as fast as they can. Other people are still exploring. They might change their mind, change their major. They might have to take a quarter or semester off to work and then return to school. So I say 4 years because that's the average that it takes to do a full-time student to get that degree. But really, it depends. Okay, it depends on how many credits and units you're taking each quarter and semester, how many you pass, etc. Okay. So anything up to this point, up to the bachelor's degree, is known as an undergraduate degree. However, there are some careers that require even more training, or where it's good to have more training above and beyond. So what would an example of that be? A teacher or a counselor or a therapist. That all requires some kind of education after a bachelor's, okay? So like in the case of, say, for example, a high school teacher, they have to be certified and get certificated to be able to teach high school. And it would be the same for like if someone was teaching K-5 or pre-TK, or to become like a therapist, an occupational therapist, a physical therapist, that requires some kind of degree or certification that's higher. Also, the next level would be a master's degree. So sometimes after you get your bachelor's, you apply for a master's program. One example would be like people who want to be lawyers. They're going to apply to something called law school. That takes an additional, usually 3 years after your bachelor's. And what would you get your bachelor's in? What would you major in? You could major in something like pre-law or political science or economics or communications, anything that's kind of related to that future field that you're going to study. It's the same if you're going to be a doctor. You might be going to a university that doesn't offer pre-med as their bachelor's major, but they offer things like human biology, public health, that, you know, sciences that would get you ready for a career as a doctor. So then the one that requires probably the most education is the doctorate level. You could get a PhD and be the doctor of the philosophy of, and you could get your PhD in any subject, math, English, archaeology, psychology, whatever. But if you want to be a medical doctor, a dentist, or a veterinarian, that means applying to those schools. So after your bachelor's, you're applying to either med school, vet school, or dentistry school, sometimes pharmacy school, and that's usually another 4 years after your bachelor's, plus you have an internship and residency, which are additional years. So sometimes those jobs that look awesome because they'd be so fulfilling and challenging and cool, and you'd make a lot of money, but also they do take the most school and the most time to get there. I also like to point out to students that if you're going for a bachelor's degree, there are 2 different ways to get the exact same degree, and there's kind of benefits and limitations of both. Some people, when they graduate high school, they've applied to a 4-year university. I'll use an example that's local, like San Diego State University or UC San Diego, and they want to start there and they want to go there for at least 4 years. They want to do their freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. Let's say they major in biology, and at the end they get their bachelor's degree from San Diego State or UC San Diego in biology. Awesome. Another thing they can do to get the same bachelor's degree is start at a local community college for 2 years, do their general ed requirements, their freshman and sophomore year there, but then in the middle of their sophomore year, they apply to transfer to a university. Let's say, again, it could be San Diego State or UC San Diego, and finish their last 2 years, their junior and senior year at that university. At the end, you get that same degree in, say, biology. Okay, so what would be the point of doing it one way or the other, or what are benefits or limitations of doing it one way or the other? I will say that for students who do the 4-year years at a university, one of the appeals for most students in that case is that most universities have dorms. They have on-campus housing. And so if you really want to live on campus and have that experience of living on a college campus, and starting there as a freshman, to go there all 4 years, that would be one of the benefits of doing it that way. It would be, it's very easy to make friends and connections that way, to get involved, to live on campus, to get up 10 minutes before your class and walk there. That's a pretty nice benefit, okay? Most community colleges don't have dorms, okay? City College, however, here in downtown San Diego, City College is building a dorm. It's going to be one of the first community college dorms in Southern California. So that's exciting. So then what would be a drawback of doing it that way? The drawback is usually the price tag. So usually the tuition at a 4-year university is going to be more costly, whereas the 2 years at a community college, the tuition would be very, very low, inexpensive, maybe even free with something called the Promise. So that tuition overall, you would only be paying for your junior, senior year of tuition at a university. And the first 2 years of tuition are either very inexpensive or maybe even covered completely if you're a California resident. So for some people, they want to go one way or the other for various reasons. I want to live on campus. I want to live off campus. I'm not sure what I want to major in, so I don't want to waste $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 a year trying to figure that out at a university when I could be figuring it out at a community college for a lot less in case I changed my mind. All right, so I just want to point that out, two methods to get that bachelor's degree. So I'll kind of briefly go into the systems of higher education in California. We have our community college system. I think we have 8 different community colleges in this county, including Miramar Mesa City College. We also have Grossmont, Cuyamaca. We have Southwestern in the South Bay. We have Palomar, Miracosta. So we have a good, rich number of community colleges. For the CSUs, there's 23 of these. These are public universities like San Diego State or Cal State San Marcos or Cal State Fullerton. We have the UCs, which is our next public university system, like UC San Diego, UC Irvine, UCLA. There's only 10 UCs. Okay, notice 23 CSUs, but only 10 UCs. So the UCs are going to be a little bit more expensive, a little bit more selective, a little bit more competitive to get into, but it varies a lot from campus to campus. And then we have like our private colleges like Point Loma Nazarene or the University of San Diego or USC, the University of Southern California. Okay. So I'll also kind of briefly touch on vocational schools and out-of-state schools as well. One thing to notice about college admissions is that to get into a community college, it's not considered a competitive process. It's a free application. You have to only be 18 or have a high school diploma or GED, and it is first come, first served. That is the main criteria. They do not require you to have had a certain high school GPA. They do not require you to have taken certain high school courses. They do not require you to write an admissions essay, okay, or to have a certain number of hours of community service. So that's the community colleges. Now, if you want to start as a freshman at a four-year university, that is more selective and competitive. So they start looking at what classes did you take? What's your GPA? Did you take any advanced placement classes? They might consider other factors, like there are still universities that will consider an SAT score or what extracurriculars you've done, or if you've done any community service or a job or leadership. Some ask you to write a personal statement, a personal essay, or the UCs have something called the PIQs, the personal insight questions, where you answer 4 written prompts. So just kind of different factors considered for different types of colleges. The community colleges, there's I think 110 or 120 in California. If you paid out of pocket, if you did not apply, you didn't fill out the FAFSA, you didn't apply for any financial aid, you said, I'm just going to pay this up front. The tuition for 1 year full-time student is about $1,200 or $1,300 a year. But they have something called the College Promise, which means if you're a California resident, okay, and after high school, you don't take any other college classes. After you graduate college, you just apply right to a community college. Basically, that promise is guaranteeing you 2 years of paid tuition full time. So that's 4 semesters, fall, spring, full-time classes at a community college. That doesn't mean they'll necessarily pay for your food and your housing and everything else. It might, depends on you know, your financial aid situation. But if you fill out a FAFSA or DREAM Act and you're a California resident, just regardless of your family income, the promise, it basically offers you 2 years of covered tuition at a community college in California. Remember, this is not a competitive admissions process. It is a free application. It's very affordable for California residents. It's basically 2 years of free tuition with a promise. Very similar general education to a university, and you can apply to transfer from that community college to a 4-year university. So what are the benefits? I'm sorry, what are the drawbacks or limitations of a community college? Remember that a lot of times the highest degree you can get there is an associate's. There are a few community colleges here that offer 1 or 2 programs where you can get a bachelor's degree, like cybersecurity is one. But most programs, the highest you could get is an associate's degree. So you couldn't finish your junior, senior year of college there. And also most of these don't have dorms, although again, City College is building dorms. All right, the next slide shows kind of some different things that with a minimum of a community college degree, you could get into these different careers. They don't necessarily require a bachelor's degree. And I like to tell students that locally, we have so many amazing programs in our community colleges. If you want to be a firefighter, that means you've got to go to the Fire Academy. We have one at Miramar College, Southwestern College, and Palomar College. So if that's what you want to do, you want to find out about those fire academies. If you want to get into nursing where you don't necessarily want like an RN, like a bachelor's or an LVN, but you want to maybe get an associate's in nursing or be a nurse assistant, City College and the College of Continuing Ed have programs for that. If you want to be a trainer, a yoga teacher, a fitness specialist, both City and Miramar offer certificates in that. If you want to be a draw blood at the doctor's office and be a phlebotomist, San Diego Mesa College has a phlebotomy program. If you want to do hair, makeup, facial, San Diego City College has a cosmetology program. If you want to be a chef, a cook, own a restaurant, have a food truck, San Diego Mesa College and the College of Continuing Ed both have culinary arts programs. If you want to work at a veterinary office, not necessarily become a full veterinarian and go through all those years of college for that, but just be a vet tech, San Diego Mesa College has a vet tech program available. Grossmont College has a respiratory therapy program available. If you want to get into audio production, digital music, technology, City College has a great studio and a great lab for that and a great program for that. Okay, so the next system is the CSUs. Remember that there are 23 of these, and this is a traditional competitive four-year university. You do have to have at least a 2.5 GPA in your A through G classes. They don't look at the SAT any longer, but they do look at your courses, your, extracurriculars. Notice that the tuition here has gone up to about $8,000 a year, all right? And while that might get covered by financial aid, it might not, okay? So that's a higher cost of attendance. Still, the California state universities are public. They're comparatively affordable. They're most affordable for California residents. They offer bachelor's degrees and higher. They all have options to live on campus, and you might qualify for a middle class scholarship or Cal Grants, Pell Grants, other things like that. What are the limitations? Well, it is more expensive than a community college, and they do sometimes have impacted majors or competitive majors that it's hard to get into. The UCs are the next system. Notice that there's only 10 of these, and San Francisco is a graduate school, so you can't apply there out of high school. It's only medical school. It is, again, the tuition jumps. This year it's around 14, 15,000 a year for tuition and fees at a UC. They have a higher GPA minimum, at least a 3.0 GPA minimum. And they also look at your extracurriculars, your community service. They ask you to write personal insight questions, and then they read those questions, and part of their admissions decision is based on your answers. So again, it is still comparatively affordable, believe it or not. As expensive as it is a public system. And for California residents, that tuition is a good deal compared to, on a national scale, what colleges often cost. They all have on-campus housing available. You also could qualify for a middle-class scholarship at a UC. Again, limitation, it's more expensive than a community college. It's about twice the cost of a CSU as far as tuition cost. And they, again, have some competitive or capped majors. Private colleges, let's say National University or Alliant International or USD or Point Loma Nazarene, Stanford, USC. These are all private colleges. They don't take any tax money, so they can basically do what they want, right? They can be small, they can be focused, they could be a faith-based or gender-based program. They tend to be very selective. Some of them are SAT required, some of them are SAT optional or blind. They mostly use the Common App. So it's like a common application you fill out and send it to whichever private colleges you want to go to. So again, what are the benefits and the limitations? Generally, private colleges don't charge in-state or out-of-state tuition. It's the same for everybody because they don't take tax money. So tuition is usually the same for every student, regardless of that, if that student is international or local or in-state or out-of-state. They all have options to live on campus. They all offer bachelor's degrees and higher. They tend to be smaller, have small class sizes, tend to be very specialized. Some of them have particular emphasis, like they might be known as a great film school or a good medical program or a great law school or something. The other nice thing is that they do tend to give the largest financial aid packages. But the reason for that is because they are the most expensive of all the systems, more expensive than any of the public systems, and also sometimes admission can be extremely competitive. Okay. There are also vocational schools, like say, for example, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising or Paul Mitchell School or Concord Career Institute. These are not, they're usually the type of thing where they're not necessarily looking at your high school GPA. They are looking at your ability to pay and to be able to start right away. So they have programs starting anytime, all year round. It's something like a UC or a CSU, you apply in the fall, you find out in the spring, you start fall semester, and that's it. Fall semester is the big start. A lot of vocational schools, you can start any time of the year. You don't have to just apply for fall or spring. A lot of times they have year-round programs. And they teach a lot of hands-on skills where you can often get jobs right away. Admissions is often not competitive. A lot of times they have really good job placement or internship opportunities. I do tell people to be cautious because they can be pricey, and you might be able to have the same program at a community college for much less money. A lot of times also, if they offer something called an associate degree, that doesn't mean it's the kind that transfers like a community college degree would transfer. So just be aware of that. I also tell people beware of for-profit colleges. If it's a business and not a nonprofit, that means that just like any business, it can go out of business. And sometimes that happens. And there are examples. These are actually for-profit colleges in San Diego that abruptly closed. It doesn't matter if you're halfway through your degree, they just close. The Art Institute that happened, Brightwood College, Coleman, and ITT Tech, that all happened with those. So be cautious if it's a for-profit college. Out-of-state colleges is another option. And it just, again, it varies from state to state. Some of them are public, some of them are private. If it's somewhere in the Western area, check to see if they use what's called WUI, or Western Undergraduate Exchange, where you might get a tuition knocked off, even if you are an out-of-state student. So, all right. Let's talk about money, the most important thing, right? So these are just the tuition costs. This doesn't include everything else like books and housing and food and transportation and all that. But just for tuition for 1 year, the cost at a community college, if you paid out of pocket, would be about $1,400 a year. Again, that should be covered for 2 years by the promise if you're graduating from high school and going right into a community college and you're a California resident and you fill out a FAFSA or DREAM Act, okay? So $1,400 a year would be a community college. A CSU currently is about $8,000 a year. UC tuition is currently about $15,000 a year. A private, like your Harvard, Yale, Stanford, MIT, usually those are going to be $40,000 a year and up for just the tuition portion. So how on earth is a family going to pay for this? So let me talk about the total cost of attendance. Remember, it's more than tuition. There's other things as well. But one of the nice things is that sometimes your financial aid doesn't just pay your tuition. Your financial aid can sometimes pay for part or all of your housing, your food, your books, your supplies, things like that. All right, so the real question is not just how much does college cost, but how much financial aid can I expect to receive? Okay, that's a big important thing. So these are the different ways to pay for college. And I'm kind of starting with the best ones first and going to the last resort ones last. So one way is saving money. Another way is being prepared to fill out a FAFSA or a DREAM Act in 12th grade. And also every year you're in college, you fill out a financial aid form once a year. Filling out that FAFSA or DREAM Act is what tells you if you are eligible for any grants, if you're eligible for work study, or if you're eligible for loans. You don't have to accept any of those, but let me tell you right now, if you're offered a grant, accept it. A grant is free money that you don't have to pay back. So I tell students, grant is great. Okay, grant is free money that is gift aid, does not have to be paid back. Work study means they might offer you some money where if you get an on-campus job during college, you're basically getting paid just like you'd get a normal salary at any job, like an hourly rate. But because that money is being paid out of a government financial aid package, it's considered part of your financial aid. Now, scholarships are also gift aid. So scholarships, there's not just one form like the FAFSA, there's probably individual little forms for every different scholarship, and they have different deadlines and different requirements, and they're for different amounts of money. But the good news is they are gift aid. It is free money. You do not have to pay back. All right. And then the last one is loans. The tough thing about loans is that you do have to pay them back with interest. So you want to start thinking and discussing as a family, are we going to be willing to take out college loans? Yes or no? If no, I need to look at what are the most affordable colleges. How do I get the most financial aid? How am I going to save the most? How am I going to apply it and be ready for the most different scholarships? If you are going to take a loan, you should decide on, well, what's the maximum we can afford to take out a year? Or do we even have the credit score to be able to take out a loan? So definitely be wise about loans if you take them. You could get one that is offered by the government if you want, or you could go with a private credit union or bank. I usually tell people try to go with whatever one is the lowest interest and that sounds like the most reliable deal to you. So these are all ways to pay for college and just things that you can have discussions about. I want to mention that there's been a change to the FAFSA this year. What for years and years and decades was called the EFC, the expected family contribution, that number is now called the SAI, or the Student Aid Index. I guess they thought that would be less confusing. I don't find it less confusing, but apparently that's the deal. And this is a number. It could be any, it could be like negative 1,500 is the lowest SAI. It could be 0. It could be 5,000. It could be 50,000. It's not any kind of money that you're ever going to be charged or that you'll be expected to pay. It's just their way of saying, well, this is how much we would expect a family to contribute each year. So the lower your SAI, basically, the more financial aid you could receive. SAI does not vary. It's the same dollar amount regardless of which college you attend. The cost of attendance is what varies from college to college. Mostly the biggest difference is not usually in housing or food or many of the other things. Usually the biggest difference from college to college is in what they charge in tuition and fees. All right, so what is the FAFSA? FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And basically, when a student gets to 12th grade, that's the first time they can fill out a financial aid form in 12th grade. So if the student is a US citizen or permanent resident, basically, if they have a social security number, the form they fill out is the FAFSA. That tells them all the federal and all the state financial aid they might qualify for. If the student does not have a social security number, like for example, if they're covered under Assembly Bill 540, this would be like for an undocumented student, for example, they will fill out the California Dream application. The difference is the California Dream application lets them know all the state of California money that they could be eligible for. However, if they're undocumented, they don't qualify for any federal funds. So really, it's kind of a very similar form that asks the same questions. It's just that you either fill out one or the other. Nobody fills out both. Nobody fills out both. Everybody fills out either the FAFSA or the DREAM Act. You do it in 12th grade, and then you resubmit once a year while every year the student attends college. And the college will give you back some kind of aid package that will say, okay, here's the grants that you're eligible for. Here's the institutional aid you're eligible for from our particular college. For example, if you are at a community college, they might offer you the Promise, which is like a tuition coverage. If you are at the UCs, they might offer you something called the Blue and Gold, which is their form of a tuition coverage. And they give you this whole package, and you find out, hopefully that it's all covered, but possibly not. So you might have to rely some on savings or scholarships or loans or things like that. This just shows you how most people in the US are paying for a college education. You'll notice that grants and scholarships is about 1/4 of the sources. We really like to get that up to half or 100%. We encourage everybody to fill out a FAFSA or DREAM Act, and for students to apply to as many scholarships as they can, and also to save and be willing to work. Okay. In savings, you can save any way you want. You can save in a jar or under your mattress or whatever. If you would like to put it in a bank, I usually recommend a 529 savings plan, because that means the money is tax deferred, and it's actually tax exempt once you spend it. It does have to be listed on the FAFSA as an asset. And if you start taking payments from it, it's kind of listed as income, but because it's tax exempt, that has some benefits. Also, if you want to estimate how much aid might I be eligible for, you can go to studentaid.gov. They have an aid estimator where you're not putting in your real name or your real information or nothing like that. You just enter like a fake amount or a real dollar amount of your family income, and it'll tell you how much federal aid you might qualify for. Become familiar with scholarships. Know that FAFSA or DREAM Act is coming once the student is a high school senior. So those are some things to get ready now. I also encourage everybody to go to the CalKids website. Depending on your income, you might have as much as $1,500 waiting for you in free scholarship money. That is for California residents and specifically for low-income families. There are scholarships for younger students. Starting in 10th grade, you can get a College Board Big Future Scholarship, and I do encourage students to apply for that one. There's some that are contest-based, so like Doodle for Google is one that is K-12, or the Breakthrough Junior Challenge is ages 13 to 18, where a student submits a 2-minute video on a science concept, and if they win, that comes with a hefty scholarship. FastWeb is another great place to look for scholarships. Okay, so I tell people, look for what is your best fit in a college, do your own research. Always think about what's my reach, my dream school, what's my match, like this is a perfect match for me, and also maybe have a safety school, like a backup in case you don't get into any of your first choices. Don't pick campuses just because your friends are going there. Make your own decision what's best for you. Make sure that you are being smart about looking at the cost of college and talk about your choices. I'm also, again, I will share this, but it has all the websites that I mentioned so far. Our CalSoap website, calsoapsandiego.org, where this will be posted. California Career Zone, californiacolleges.edu, Workforce, Big Future, CalKids, My Majors, ONET Online. And again, we are on social media if you want to find us, CalSoap San Diego. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing there and see if there are any questions. If anyone would like to put a question in the chat, now is a great time. I will take questions right now. I'm going to also put my email address in the chat, kkwhitaker@ucsd.edu. You can email me a question if you don't want to write it in the chat right now. Anyone have any questions? All right, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and thank you for coming tonight. And I will be posting this tomorrow on the website. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. I wish you a lot of good luck in your journey to whatever form of education after high school you get into. And thank you so much for your time tonight. It means a lot that you took time out of your busy day to be here. So thank you, everybody. Good night.